nobody panics when things go according to plan, even if the plan is horrifying. The Joker, more specifically, the Joker played by Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight, is probably one of my favorite modern villain characters to have been used in movies. It's also one of the few movies I've watched in recent years that I always look back on fondly and actually enjoy seeing people analyze and dissect and have their own theories and ideas about. And I think it kind of works for me because he's kind of a classical villain, or not technically classical. He's not evil for the sake of evil. I mean, there is some hints that he's a broken man underneath. Like, this is something that I think villains could work with and still be evil. Is you can actually have a villain be sympathetic. It's just you never see much of it. It's like give hints of the man behind the monster, or like who they used to be. But you don't even get that with the Joker. All you get are some vague hints, and they may not even be true. Probably the best thing about him is like you don't know where he comes from. There's no falling into the vat of chemicals origin to this version of the Joker. He's just a fully formed Joker who comes to Gotham because of the Batman. He is the reason why he comes there and does the things he does. Well, that and he made the mob desperate. But another thing is he's a good nihilistic character, which is something I really like. Like nihilists make the best kinds of villains because they hold nothing sacred. Nothing is out of bounds for them. They will do anything they please, and God help the person who gets in their way. They are monsters of the highest caliber because nothing is sacred, nothing is sacrosanct, nothing is out of bounds. Anything goes for a nihilist, especially the worst kind of nihilist. Because nihilism, it's a very dark thing to think about. The idea of nothing is right or wrong. It's like nihilism, as I understand, is the rejection of principal beliefs. That's the way I've always looked at it, is nihilism is just the idea of nothing is right or wrong unless you decide it is. And that's actually a very messed up way of looking at things. And I might be getting the definition wrong. But yeah, the Joker very much epitomizes this in that he is a broken individual and you have no idea what broke him. And now he's as ugly on the inside as he ever was going to be. And he seeks to prove that everyone else is just as ugly inside as he is deep down. And sort of his battle with Batman in the movie, there is both a physical battle and a philosophical battle in that, like, again, he wants to show that everyone is really ugly underneath just like him. I mean, Batman ultimately wins the fight, but the Joker wins the argument. The once idealistic Harvey Dent becomes Two-Face. He broke probably Gotham's greatest hope other than Batman. And yeah, he's just a very interesting and like the theories people have about where he comes from and who they compare him to, I also find a little interesting. Like there's one specific character that he's compared to, and there's one I compare him to now that I'll be getting to later. But yeah, so I thought, you know what, this would be a good character to do a video on, just to show, like, yeah, writers, you can, like, there's an archetype of a character that we're missing that kind of balances out, like, a need to inject philosophy and maybe just an enjoyment for classical evil characters. So yeah, I thought I should talk about him. As I said before, the Joker's origin is never elaborated upon in this movie. It is just he appears fully formed and is attracted to Gotham by the activities of the Batman. And that's all there really is to him. Like, there are hints to who he may have been. Like, he gives different stories to different people throughout the movie to, let me see, to I think his name was Gamble. No, maybe it wasn't. The black guy, I forget his name, is played by something White. Jay White, I think the guy used to play Spawn in the live action movie. He says, "You ever wonder how I got these scars?" And he says, "My father was a drunk and a fiend. And one day mommy pulls out the knife and he doesn't like that. So he takes the knife to her. Then he turns the knife on me and he says, 'Why so serious?' Then he puts the blade up to my mouth and says, 'Let's put a smile on that face.'" And then another story he tells to Rachel is that his girlfriend or wife was mauled by the mob. They carved a smile on her mouth. So he does it to himself to make her feel better, and she can't stand the sight of him. And actually, there's some way you can say the father story might have more weight, because at one point, when he holds up a party, an old man says they're not afraid of him, he's like, "You remind me of my father. I hated my father." And then the third story he gives to Harvey Dent. Well, this is actually not so much a story, it's more like a throwaway line, but it may have some weight because you don't know if he's saying it to mess with someone or not. But he says to Harvey Dent, "If a truckload of soldiers suddenly blows up, nobody panics because it's all a part of the plan." So another possibility is he was a soldier who served in the war, maybe special forces, and he was in a truck that blew up and he survived, but he had PTSD as a result, and he came home to find that the deaths of his friends and comrades meant nothing. Like, these are possibilities, but it's also possible he just made them up to fuck with people's heads. Beyond that, there is no real concrete reason to why he is the way he is. He could be someone who just snapped one day, like life broke him immensely, and he was like, fuck it. Just fuck the world. That could have also been a fact, something that happened. I mean, life can be cruel, unforgiving, merciless, and it breaks some people and makes them into monsters. We see this throughout history, and the Joker could just be a fictional variation of this. But yeah, other than that, there's not much information about him, and which is something I find very attractive in fiction and creatively. Is you don't know where this guy comes from, and that gives an air of mystery, and I like that. Again, you don't know much about where the Joker comes from, so this leaves an air of mystery, which I like because it leaves it open to the imagination and the speculation of the viewer or the reader, which is very good because anything's a possibility. You leave room for the audience to fill in the blanks on their own, or you leave room to be filled in later. They could have done this with Heath Ledger's Joker. I'm glad they didn't. I'm glad that they left it more or less ambiguous. I don't think they ever elaborated on it or made a comic or anything to explain why the movie version of Joker has the skills he has. It's up in the air. You don't know. It's left up to your imagination. It's very ambiguous, and I like that because some villains, there's this elaborate exposition dump that explains how they can do the stuff they do. With Heath Ledger's Joker, you don't get that, which I think is awesome. It's very, well, kind of classical. I mean, it's kind of like Grendel from Beowulf. You don't know much about Grendel other than the fact that he's the son of Grendel's mother and he's a descendant of Cain. Other than that, you know jack squat about his background. So it's very classical. It's like you don't know where this person comes from. It's left up to your imagination and speculation. Throughout the movie, it's pretty apparent that the Joker is an agent of two things. One of them is chaos. There is no real rhyme or reason to what he does. He just does things. Like, he says it best himself. And he says, "You know what I am? I'm a dog chasing a car. I wouldn't know what to do if I caught one. I just do things." Like, I think there is some premeditation in his head, but he has no real grand plan. He just wants to break the city and show that you are all like me, an animal. And one day you will be broken and you will be just as ugly as I am on the inside. So, yeah, I think Alfred also said it best. Some men aren't looking for anything logical like money. Some men just want to watch the world burn. And in an age where villains usually have to have sympathetic reasons for doing the things they do or why the way they are, I find this kind of refreshing to look back on because the people who probably did this to him are long dead. And he still carries on, broken, and enacting onto the world what was done to him, probably. Or maybe he's just a maniac who likes to destroy things because he is, if not borderline evil, is evil himself and chaotic. He just, nothing entices him. Not money, not women. He just enjoys messing with people and messing with the world in general, which is a very appealing aspect. It's just, like, again, I think nihilists really do make great villains because there's nothing they value. Not family, not friends, not anything. Well, actually, they probably could value them to an extent, but the Joker is kind of like the ultimate negative kind of nihilist. He doesn't look for meaning, he seeks to destroy meaning. Which is, I think, something from Wisecrack once proposed. Back when I used to watch them, I don't watch them anymore. Their videos got way too outlandish for me. But I think they did. Anyway, yeah, he's very chaotic. He's like chaotic evil, the ultimate chaotic evil character, in my opinion. And he does it so well. In addition to being very chaotic, the Joker seems to be very much an anarchist. He wants to destroy everything, society, government, or at least that's the feel I get from him. Is like in a world with rules, you have to. He wishes in a world with all these rules, he seeks to break those rules and just live life the way he sees as entertaining. Or at least that's the feel I get from him. But yeah, he's very much an anarchy type of character. He holds nothing sacred. Again, a nihilist. He respects no authority. He is in it for himself, and nothing really appeals to him. It's just not even like he robs a bank just to fuck with the mob, and it plays into his overall plan, even though he claims to not be someone with a plan. And this probably should have been reserved for the chaos bit, but I didn't think of it till I moved to this slide. But yeah, he very much is a very anarchist kind of character, and a very well done and written one at that. Heath Ledger, the actor who actually portrayed this version of the Joker, he actually described this one as a psychopathic, murdering, diabolical clown with zero empathy. And that accurately describes the Joker. He is just insane. There's actually a little bit here on his personality, which I looked up. It is as follows. The Joker was nothing more or less than the ultimate personification of chaos, anarchy, death, destruction, madness, and psychopathy. However, the Joker himself claimed to not be insane, but rather just ahead of the curve. This proved to be at least partially true, as the Joker was a competent strategist who could easily get inside people's heads, predict their actions, and plan accordingly. He was able to plan out the events of the Dark Knight and also improvise when he needed to, showing a high level of intellect and knowledge. He has no problem getting underneath people's skin and could easily manipulate people into corruption. In addition to that, the Joker was also skilled at appealing to mentally unstable people, whom he used as free help and for sections of his plans that required expendable assets, and manipulated them with promises that he would make their mental problems go away. For example, when the Joker planted a bomb inside the stomach of Kilson, he told him that he would make the voices go away and replace them with the bright lights like Christmas. Bright lights being the metaphor for the bomb Joker buried in Kilson's stomach. That extreme scenario of cruelty, sadism, and precision proved that the Joker was more in the realm of psychopath, sociopath, and insanity, as he was neither delusional nor did he lose his grip on reality. On a related note, Joker also had some irritation when he was referred to as a freak, or another term that implied that he's deficient, which was best demonstrated twice, both times when members of the mob. First time when Gamble, where when he called Joker a freak in response he remarked about a guy like me during his speech, which Joker ended up expressing some irritation before he got to his point quickly. And the second time was when the Chechen, where Joker was angered enough at the Chechen's reference to him as such as that he promptly had him ordered, cut up, and fed to his own dogs in response upon taking over his criminal organization. Despite this, however, the Joker had little problem acknowledging that he was crazy upon being defeated by Batman, insofar that his belief in him and Batman not being much different from Gotham itself in terms of sanity or lack thereof. Joker also seemed to have some abundant awareness about his lacking a sense of humor, as when he arrived in the mob summit and saw that their plan was a bad idea. And I thought my jokes were bad. Grumpy and Chuckles also implied when they reviewed the plan to rob Gotham National Bank that the Joker had gotten his moniker due to his tendency to sit out and take a slice. The Joker often spoke with nasally Chicago accent, although sometimes his voice stopped down to a deep, almost demonic pitch. And he's very morally nihilistic. Even briefly paraphrasing German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche when he stated that to the bank manager that he believed in and was obsessed with the limits of morality. Okay, I think I'll stop there because it's actually a very long thing. The point is, the man is not insane. He has a grip on reality. He knows what he's doing is right and wrong, or he knows what right and wrong is, and he knows what he's doing is wrong. He just doesn't care. Or at the very least, he recognizes that what he's doing would be considered wrong. He does not care. It has entertained him. He wants to do it. He wants to push people. As it said, he wants to push the boundaries of morality. And so, again, he is like the worst kind of nihilist, the most radical, extreme nihilist, to the most illogical, extreme extent. And yeah, which makes him kind of a good contrast with Batman, who is about order, stability, the law, protecting people. The Joker is about taking lives, destruction, chaos. There's, again, not a lot he holds dear. Actually, there's nothing he holds dear. He just wants to see the world burn. He's like the Burma Bandit. And again, this is something I find very appealing about him. He is interesting because of his personality and the way he conducts himself. Like, I always get the feeling that he chose to be this way, and he's not ashamed of it. He's probably proud of it. He is a monster, and an unrepentant one at that. And I wish there were more like him in fiction, to be perfectly honest. Like, I'm tired of this whole, we need to have realistic villains. I'm like, I don't want realistic villains. I want villains who are entertaining and ones that I root for the defeat of. And the personality aspect definitely makes the Joker one of them. He is interesting. Also, psychologically, he's kind of interesting to read about or to hear people analyze. As I said already, the Joker is actually very skilled at getting inside people's heads and making his decisions in the moment. Or that's how it kind of came off when I was reading it. He's a very adaptable person. I think this actually leads into the theory of he may have actually been a soldier at one point. Because in combat you actually have to adapt to a situation as it presents itself, or at least that's how I always imagined combat is like it's not procedural. It can change at any moment. You have to be prepared for any scenario. So if the Joker was a soldier at some point, this would explain why he's able to do the things he does, why he's able to make, to strategize, to make plans, and when the plan goes awry, he's able to switch tactics because he thought of them ahead. And again, this sounds like something similar to Batman. Batman probably has contingency plans for his contingency plans, which again is another good factor. Is the Joker is not some idiot who does stupid stuff. He sets out with a plan and a goal. He just goes about doing it in the most evil way possible. Or he has an evil goal. It's just he's prepared, and he's prepared to use any extreme to enact his evil goal. Which again is another factor as to why I like this variation of the character. I mean, the character of the Joker has always been an evil person, but the Heath Ledger one really personified it. Unlike the Arthur Fleck variant, he wasn't sympathetic. He was skilled, and his background just left it up to your imagination of how he can do the things he does. He's like one of the few characters where you don't need an explanation to how he's able to do the things he does because it's left up to your imagination at this point. It's not the, which is kind of a contrast to a point I made with the Kurgan, not with the Kurgan, with Edward Kenway. I said have someone be skilled within reason, like have an explanation. With the Joker, you technically can't do that because of the mystery angle. I mean, it does kind of cover this by saying he may have been a soldier at one point or part of the mob. So he probably has some knowledge of firearms and combat. So yeah, there's also that factor to consider. When it comes to the appeal of this incarnation of the Joker, I would say it would definitely be, as weird as this will probably sound, it actually kind of speaks to an inner dark part of me, to be perfectly honest, in that there are days where I would like to see the world burn. I'm not going to lie. There are times when I have those days, and it's not pleasant. And I just look at the world, the suffering, the bullshit that happens, and how people tolerate it. It's like, yeah, I would like to go nuts. I would like to just see the world burn sometimes, but I can't. Another thing I like about it is, well, it's kind of hard for me to articulate on this one because I should not articulate. I just had a brain fart for a second. Another reason is the Joker is a well acted and well written character by Heath Ledger, or at the very least, he's acted very well by Heath Ledger, and it was written well, so he had something to work with. And then he contributed his own stuff to it as well. This is kind of why I hate modern movies now, is because they don't allow much. Because it sounds to me like if the studios had their way, the actors would have no input on what should be done with these characters. Like, they couldn't contribute something to a scene. Like, they essentially want to take out all the things that are human about it. They want to sanitize it of all human contribution and just make it like, this is what the script says and this is what we're going to do. And that's it. And it all has to be approved. And there are certain things that have been added by actors that they would have never thought to have added if the actor hadn't brought up. Like, I think into Django Unchained, I've only seen a little bit of it, but I think there was a scene that involved a hammer and a skull. That was made up by, I forget the actor's name, who plays Mr. Candy. Leonardo DiCaprio. Sorry, I had to look that up. He actually added that scene, or that's the story I hear anyway, and that's actually interesting. Like, there are also instances of actors who are voice acted. I think this was something I remember from Matt Ryan when they were doing a Justice League Dark animated movie. He actually added some stuff to what he think Constantine would say, or he altered some stuff and was allowed to do alterations. I kind of like that, to where an actor is able to bring some, as long as it's not something stupid, I tend to support that. And Heath Ledger definitely did that with the Joker. Like, there's this one scene where they announced that Gordon is made commissioner, and all the people were applauding. All of a sudden, they realized the Joker is applauding as well. And apparently Heath Ledger, that wasn't part of the script. Heath Ledger decided to do that in the middle of the scene. And Nolan was like, keep rolling. They kept on with it, and yeah, so it was acted by a great actor, and he was written well, and the actor was allowed to contribute his own stuff, and was allowed to be as erratic as he wanted with the character, or unpredictable. Another thing is he makes a really good contrast with Batman. Like, both are technically loners. The only difference is Batman does work with people, but he works in the field alone usually. Like in the Nolan movies, there was no Robin, there was no Red Hood, there was no Nightwing, no nobody. It was just Batman working with Lucius Fox, Gordon, and a few other people. And the Joker himself also works alone. The only difference is people that he involves in his shenaniganery, he kills usually, or he uses them till they're no longer useful. And unlike Batman, he is not very nice about it. Like one of his minions actually tried to take Batman's mask off. This caused him to get shocked by a defense mechanism. The Joker mocked him, spit on him, kicked him. And I mean his minion. I think he kicked his minion. It's been a while since I saw that movie. And yeah, another thing is they are both really good at what they do. They are both good at working outside the law. Both work on their own for the most part. I mean, they do allow people to contribute to what they do, but the only difference is I think without the help of others, Batman probably would function less as adequately as he does. The Joker, I think, could function adequately without help. It's just the people he uses make the situation more beneficial to him. The other appeal for me is he's very adaptable. I always get the feeling with the Joker, like any situation could happen to him, and he would just adapt to it. So let's say he's in the middle of a fight with Batman, and all of a sudden a cop comes in. He would be prepared to parry, dodge, and take that cop out and resume his fight with the Batman. So it feels like even if some things don't go the way he had initially planned or planned in the moment, he can adapt to the situation to where he can resume his end goal of fighting Batman. Another thing is, personality. Like, the Joker's personality, while volatile and disgusting, it does have a certain appeal to it, mainly because this is someone that if you met in real life, you would want to back away slowly, but on film, it's entertaining. Another good thing is he has all these good lines, like, if a truck full of soldiers blows up, nobody panics. Or, look what I did to the city with a few bullets and some gasoline. And some other ones were, madness, as you know, is like gravity. All it takes is a little push. And another thing I like is he ideologically wins at the end. Like the once idealistic Harvey Dent is broken, he becomes Two-Face. That is something you do not normally see a villain. Well, villain or antagonist. To me, the Joker is a villain, a straight up villain. I consider him a villain, especially in this movie. Other people have called him an antagonist, like the guy who proposed the theory that the Joker may have been a Green Beret. I don't know if I've mentioned this in the video yet. But, yeah, his name is, I believe, Film Comics Explained. He referred to him as antagonist, so I have no idea what the actual thing with him is. I don't know his exact classification. I always looked at him as a straight-up villain, because an antagonist you can kind of reason with, or maybe work around to gain on your side. They just are pursuing something that puts them into conflict with the protagonist, I believe. So you can maybe negotiate with an antagonist. The Joker is not a negotiable antagonist. He is more of a very ideological opposed individual to Batman. So in a way he can be the antagonist in a way in that what he wants is to really... It really does put him into conflict with Batman, so he does kind of fall into the antagonist role. Again, it's been years since I've actually read on the definitions of a villain and antagonist. I should really look it up after I'm done with this to refresh myself. But, yeah, he makes a very good and interesting antagonist or villain. But regardless of what his classification is, the Joker does technically ideologically win the argument. In that he shows that some people can be broken completely, and they become just as ugly as he is on the inside. Harvey kind of is the example of this. The only difference is we actually know what broke Harvey Dent. The Joker, we will never probably know what happened, and I like it that way. Another appeal is the mystery, the not knowing who this guy really was. That's one of the things I like about Joker in the comics. Is technically we don't really know for sure. Well, and until a couple of years ago, we didn't know what happened to him. I think it wasn't until Rebirth when they decided they were going to do the three Joker story and say this is definitively who he was before, which I still say is a bad, bad, bad idea. That was a super dumb idea. But hey, it is what it is. And so yeah, there's that mystery angle. Like we have some ideas of where he comes from, some possibilities, but they could be other bullshit possibilities that the Joker just threw out there to fuck with people's heads. Another thing is he actually can be used to interject philosophy into a story. Like I actually find this fascinating whenever I'm learning about. Well, not learning, but whenever I see people analyzing stuff, they try to have a slant of it, having a philosophical or ideological injection to it. The Joker is probably my favorite example of a nihilist. Like, again, I think I've said this already. I consider nihilists the best kinds of villains. Actually, I'm pretty sure I said this. Nothing is sacred to them, so there's no limit. There's nothing they will not do. There's nothing they will not violate or touch or mess with. In a sense, they're like people from Hollywood, and the things you love are not safe from them. But anyway, yeah, he's a good way of injecting, like, philosophically, the idea of order versus chaos and nihilism versus, I guess, hope. I asked this of Osteophile once, like, what's the opposite of nihilism? I think it was either optimism or hope, because nihilism is probably one of the bleakest views you can have. I'm not even bullshitting you there. It is pretty bleak. I mean, existential nihilism isn't so bad, I think that's the one where you try to find meaning in a meaningless world or something. That is another thing I have to look up again just to refresh my mind. And lastly, I just like Heath Ledger's Joker because he complements this movie. Like, this whole movie would not be as good as it is that he's in without Heath Ledger's incarnation of the Joker. He made that film for me. He is, like, the only reason I love that film. And yeah, he's probably the best part of that film. He is the backbone, the spine, like everything that makes the movie incredible, I say is because of Heath Ledger, and it's a damn shame he's no longer with us because just damn it. Just damn. I remember the day I heard he died, and it was years before I would ever see the movie. And I was kind of shocked to hear that. Like, I'd had no idea who he was. I just heard he died. Then I saw the movie years later, and I'm like, oh, this is a tragedy. And then I found out he had a daughter also, but anyway, yeah, he compliments, like, the two characters. Well, there's actually three characters to give a shit about in the movie, and the Joker is one of them. Well, he makes it interesting. There's him, Harvey Dent, and Bruce Wayne / Batman. Those three make that film, but I would say the Joker the most makes it the most compelling. Because he is an evil that is just... He actually makes you concerned for people if you watch the movie for the first time and don't know the spoilers. Another good thing is and this is probably the last point I want to touch on, is he is a good kind of... Like, I don't really know how to put this. This goes back to him being a good contrast with Batman in that he is as irredeemable as Batman is incorruptible. He is the unstoppable force meets the immovable object. And I think Heath Ledger and the guy who played Batman, I forget his name, they brought their A game with this and really sold that dynamic, and that it is an ideological and physical conflict that is very enthralling and something that I love to come back to from time to time. And I don't like Batman, for the record. In either the comics or in the films, I'm not a Batman fan, but this movie made me give a shit about Batman on some level. Not a whole lot, but some. And yeah, your mileage will probably vary on why you like the Joker by Heath Ledger. But these are some of the reasons why I like him and find him interesting. If you have other reasons why you like the Joker in this movie, let me know in the comments. Okay, this one actually is going to be a little weird, but probably, and I wouldn't be surprised if I said that multiple times on this video or in other videos. But there's actually only two characters I can think of that are comparable to the Joker. Now, one is someone I see more similarities with. The other one is someone I've heard mentioned in the past, and that is Iago from The Tale of Othello. Now, Othello, or not Othello, Iago, he believes that Othello slept with his wife. I want to say that was the story. It's been years since I saw the video doing the comparison. But even if he doesn't know it, Iago seems compelled to like mess with Othello's life. Othello. I swear, I know English, but fuck my mouth sometimes. Anyway, even if he doesn't know, he still wants to fuck up Othello's life. And I remember there was I remember at the time I heard it, I was like, oh yeah, that actually does sound like the Joker, but now I can't remember it. So it sounds like he was willing to just mess with Othello's life, even if he didn't do the things that Iago thinks he did. He probably would have done it just for fun. Like there are characters like that in Shakespeare who are just pure evil, who just did messed up things for the sake of doing them. Another one was a guy in, I want to say Titus Andronicus was his name. He actually had that was probably the first instance of someone making a Yo Mama joke. And don't believe me, look up Overly Sarcastic Productions video on it. And when the baby is born, their mother gave birth to. It turns out that it's a black child, and he's like, "What have you done, villain? What I have done, what that cannot be undone." And then they said something, and then the guy is like, "Villain, I have done thy mother." So yeah. And anyway, this guy in Titus Andronicus, he was like, his only regret was that he was not more villainous. Yeah, classic days back when we actually had villains for stories. Anyway, the other one that I would compare him to, and I see more similarities with, is the Kurgan from Highlander. I've probably mentioned him a couple times in the past, but fuck it. The Kurgan, he actually does come off as a nihilist sometimes. Like he seems to just relish doing horrible things and being spiteful. Like I don't think there was ever a point in this life where this guy had empathy or sympathy or was a decent human being. I mean, the original idea for the Kurgan was he was tragic, but that was later scrapped before they actually did the movie. And they both seem to relish doing evil things. Both can be nonchalantly doing other stuff as they do it. Like when the Kurgan was chasing McLeod's new love interest in the present, he was actually, I think in one version, he was sucking on a lollipop as he did it. Well, that's what I've heard anyway. I don't remember much from that scene, and I've only seen it a couple times recently. They both relish in doing horrible things. Neither of them show a conscience or remorse for their actions. Both do morally reprehensible things. And they seem to take sadistic pleasure as they do it, and they live to torment the protagonist in some regard. The Kurgan lives to torment and one day kill McLeod. I mean, he ultimately fails, but he does torment McLeod for centuries. The Joker lives to torment people. He enjoys tormenting people. There's not an ounce of empathy from him when he does it. Both have no problem taking innocent lives or killing people or ruining the lives of people who are just in the middle of the situation that he is involved in. And both are just evil as fuck. Like, there's no reasoning with them. It's just you either have to kill them or knock them unconscious and get away from them. That is it. There is no negotiation with them. And actually, that's about it. They, other than that, they're not much alike. Well, aside from personality-wise and how they act, but other than that, they are different in terms of attire and how they conduct themselves. I mean, the Joker actually seems like a strategist. The Kurgan is more or less just a brute. He is a brute who just knows how to work a situation to his advantage sometimes. At least in the first movie. In the comics, that might be different. Because they actually did a comic exploring his background. But anyway, those are the two. That is the one that is the one the Joker reminds me of. Okay, so to wrap this up and This one was kind of like the Edward Kenway one. It was kind of hard for me to really decide what the takeaway was. One is it's possible to incorporate philosophy with a character, but it's possible to also do it subtly. Like, you don't have to beat someone over the head with philosophy with a character. Like, the Joker doesn't make reference to, like, direct references like, oh, these rules are so bad, you're idiots for. Well, not wholeheartedly. Like, he does make certain comments like that, but it's not like beating the audience over the head with it, metaphorically or figuratively. It's possible to be skilled within reason, but without elaboration. Now, the Joker's, as I said, we never get much about his background. We just get, like, hints that may be things that happened to him. But it's also possible to look at it and say, this guy's a criminal. He has thrived in the criminal underworld, so it would be plausible for him to pick up skills as time goes on. So you have at least that background. It's not like he just one day decided to be the clown prince of crime and he could just do stuff out of the blue just because he was awesome. The dialogue should be... I mean, the Joker had pretty good dialogue. He was very well written, so I think it's important to really work on constructing good dialogue for a character and just give him good lines. Because that's the thing about villains and antagonists and bad guys in general. They have really great lines. Like, the Kurgan had it, the Joker had it. Like, villains and antagonists really get good lines, and I think it's important that should be the case going forward still, because it feels like it happens less and less now. There should be a good contrast between the protagonist and the villain or antagonist. There should be something you can compare and contrast. Rationality doesn't always have to be complex with the enemy of the protagonist. I mean, the Joker's reasoning for why he does the things he does is not complex. Like, I think it was Danny O'Neill or Denny O'Neill. He said it best. The Joker's mindset is, I'm as nutty as a squirrel and proud of it. That is his mindset, basically. The only difference is in this movie, he's more of a nihilist. Like, his reasoning doesn't have to be based in anything. It's just, he's evil. And he wants to prove everyone deep down is just as evil as him. Now, maybe you could... actually, no, I'm not even going to go on that. That is the main point, is he's not a complex character. He is a broken man who is just evil. There's no reasoning with him. There's no rhyme or reason to what he does. It's just what he wants to do. Another thing is, it's possible for a character to be irredeemable and be a villain or antagonist, because I've said this before and I'll say it again. I'm kind of sick of the antagonists and villains being misunderstood and maybe they want redemption. Like, I miss when we just had badass villains who did evil things and they were not interested in redemption. They were interested in pursuing their goal and doing whatever it took to get it, and damn the consequences. And the Joker, I think I've said this already, but I'll say it again. The Joker is as irredeemable as Batman is incorruptible. So therefore, he makes the perfect enemy for Batman. Batman is about order, the Joker is about chaos. Well, Batman is about obeying the law and tolerates order within reason. The Joker, he wants to destroy order at all costs, on every level. So yeah, again, he is a perfect nihilistic character. Like, I think he's what they call an aggressive nihilist. This is a type of nihilist who seeks to destroy the foundations and old values and start anew. I think that's what an aggressive nihilist is. This was something that they said about Rick Sanchez from Rick and Morty. He is a combination of a passive and aggressive nihilist. This is what Wisecrack once said. But anyway, that's... Yeah, and that also goes back to the point of you can actually have stuff like politics and philosophy be incorporated into a movie or a story. You just have to be subtle about it, or at least moderate in how you use it. Otherwise, the audience will feel like you're lecturing them, and that's never good. You want the audience to feel entertained, not like they're being lectured to. And yeah, I think those are the takeaways I got from this character. If you can think of something else that you learned from this character on screen, let me know in the comments. Yeah, just have a nice day. And remember, the game was rigged from the start.